tiles for Bob.
So
He was really trying to promote that.
Promote a Clay and who?
Over.
Been better for him.
So what were you saying, grandmother? Sorry when I interrupted
Yeah,
you.
Clay would have been good for him.
She would have.
She was a wonderful girl, Clay was. But she was,
Ricky drove me crazy.
Clay when I went to college, I went to BAC in Cedar City, and Clay was in the dormitory with.
Was this a cousin or a?
She wasn't a
went to
cousin.
Jacob.
She was her cousin. Dion was living in the dorm, and she roomed with her, and that's how I got. But Clay I had known previously from Jacob. But it was. I'll tell you, we had some good times.
She was funny.
She was quite the girl.
She went up to apply for a job at the state capitol. And as a secretary, that's all she'd ever had was high school, and she learned to type in shorthand. And she got it in, and there was this whole line of people. And they took in a couple of girls, and then they called her in. And he said, where have you worked? And she said, I worked at Jacob Lake. And he said, do you know Harold Bowman? And he said, yes. So she said, yes, sir. She said, would Harold Bowman give you a recommendation? Yes, sir. You're hired.
That's awesome. You were bringing something up though, grandmother, about North
I
Rim.
think that that the North Rim has always sort of been a stepchild. So far as the park department is concerned, what's it called? That's all I can think of.
Grand Canyon National Park or
Parks.
the
Parks,
National Park System?
National Park
Yeah.
Service.
Okay.
And I think that it was because of men like Pat, what did I say his name was?
Rogers?
Rogers,
That's what I'm hearing.
who had enough charisma, notability, whatever, that it was established as well as it was. But it was always a temporary sort of thing. Now, did you think that?
Well, I don't know.
Grand Canyon's always been there as long as far back as I can remember.
No, I mean so far as the way it was treated by the Park Service.
Oh well, I didn't.
One of the people that I heard talk about was that said something about it was Art Brown.
Maybe he had a way to know because he had been on both sides.
Yeah. But I don't know. But it's never been, nothing can happen at the North Rim. Everything has to be approved by the South Rim. It has to go back to the South Rim when it comes to, there's never been a feeling of, and I've never felt the inclusion.
So there wasn't like a solidarity at the North Rim or,
I don't think so.
like a
Well, it's just been a place in the sticks, and the bigwigs were all on the South Rim.
And it was the new people that were always sent to the North Rim, or someone that was kind of temporary, or whatever.
So was it like a proving ground almost? Like
No, I don't even think it was that.
No, it's just that
Well, you know, when we were little, there wasn't a good road out to Cape Royal or Point Sublime. You just rode on a little dirt track. I can remember, but we always went there. Dad always took everybody out there and showed them.
it works like this. This is my house. I've got this little place over here, you see. When actually it's a better place than what here.
Yeah, so
As far as tourist is concerned.
That's another thing Moore did that summer on when he first worked out Grand Canyon that summer, when we got together, he worked on the road
Mm.
and had a tar pot.
So this is out towards Cape Royal that way, or the whole road?
Yeah.
It's okay.
You see, you come out on the lodge over here,
Mm-hmm.
and the canyon's here, but you go on the south rim, there's a drop here, but you gotta look way over there, and there's the river way over there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's,
Yeah.
So I do think that there was that. And then I think that one of the other things that did, when did the CCCs come?
I did,
Oh, they were,
the CCs,
The CCCs, the what is it? The Conservation Corps.
civilian
So
conservation.
that's a Civilian Conservation Corps.
yeah.
They built a lot of those trails.
No.
Yes. Out at Cape Royal.
Well, Cape Royal maybe, yeah. You see, they had the power plant. That all had to go in before they done anything, you see. So
Well, and are they still getting water from Meltavar
oh, yeah,
from over at Roaring
Yeah.
Springs?
yeah, that's the main thing, is pumping that water.
So is there not a source of water on the South Rim?
Well, no,
So it all comes from the north. The water all comes from the North Rim, and they pump it
Comes
over
from the
across,
river.
or the river.
they bring it in.
They don't take any water from the river.
Anymore.
They
Ever.
don't take it out of the canyon. They don't take it.
I think the only water that they get is what they get from Roaring Springs. Isn't it?
In the north side,
On the south side.
no, they don't.
Where do they get it? Where do they get the water for Eldevar?
Back south,
Mm.
we're talking about the north rim, everything comes from Roaring Springs.
Yes. But I think also on that some
But
of the
there's
water.
none of that water over there comes this way. They have another spring down there, but they don't, I never seen much of a pipeline pumping out of the Grand Canyon to the south rim.
That's something you need to look into.
Okay. I can.
They may do, there's a resting place and some cabins part way down the trail, but I don't.
On the south rim?
Yeah. I forget what they call it, but
The thing that,
Indian Gardens
Yeah,
or
Indian
somewhere.
Gardens. Yeah.
but I can't quite remember. But there was a washout. And as my memory goes, they said that it was crucial that they get this done before they got into the season because of the water for the south rim.
Well, see, they have, you can go from the south rim halfway down, and they have some cabins, and that's a part day ride. Then the long day ride goes on down to Phantom Ranch.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And that's something that I've wondered about was how did they get that water across the river?
They don't, it has to be on there was never any pipe
Going across the river. Hmm.
I think they get most of their, I forget the name of the canyon, there's another canyon on the south side. The Paiute Indians have a canyon there, I think.
Havasus or?
Havasu or something like that.
So they pump from.
It's on the south side, and I think that's where they get their water from.
Well, yeah, I'll have to look into that and see.
Yeah.
But I mean, so again, in terms of, like you were talking about before, grandmother, that because all of the kind of celebrities or most of the people went to the South Rim, that's where all the resources went. And that on the North Rim, you know, I mean, yes, there was the lodge, but that it was really just kind of like, oh, well, here's another view. It wasn't, they weren't, well, I guess, why do you think, I mean, any of you, why do you think it was that they didn't expand it any more than it has gone?
The original lodge burned down on the North Rim.
Was that in the 20s that did that?
Early on, I don't remember it, but my mother told me, I remember them talking about that it burned.
Okay. And so do you think maybe that was a hindrance in terms of?
Well, what could they have, what did they have to cater to tourists with if they didn't have a lodge?
Well,
it just wasn't as accessible.
Okay.
It's just that they can run the train right up to it from here.
So and wasn't it was Edwin D. Woolley that was trying to get the railroad to come to the North Rim, but that it was just too inaccessible? Was that the...
You see, here comes the Park Service in.
You see where it'd have to come from, clear from Cedar City.
All this, and the headquarters was there and everything. And none of these educated boys wanted to go to the North Rim because it just wasn't convenient. I think that's more.
Okay. But part of that is just, I mean, like you're saying, that it's accessibility that...
Well, you know, for when I was a kid, it was a journey to go to the North Rim, you know, the road.
Explain what that was like. I mean, I think, to me, that's something that's really interesting because I think we get used to our...
Well, but think of the kind of cars we had back then.
I don't know. Explain that. I guess it's part of it.
I can remember there...
First time I went...
Little tires. My dad, I remember going across... I think we were going down to Mexico. Grandma
You need
Bowman,
to tell her about going across on the ferry, Bob.
Grandma Bowman, we crossed Lee's Ferry, but then we went...
She went on the ferry, not the bridge.
Lee's Ferry
Oh, the
Bridge.
ferry.
The ferry
So that was
itself.
before the bridge was built.
Before the bridge was
What do you remember about that, Barbara?
Oh, I can remember definitely going across that ferry, and I can remember how frightened Grandma was, and Dad was very respectful of his mother. He wouldn't have made fun of her or anything, but he was trying to love her along and make her see that everything was all right, but we had to stop and let the air out of the tires to get through the sand, and then he had to get out and come back up again, you know. It was quite a...
What was it like being on the river?
Being on the river?
When you were taking the ferry across.
How did you feel?
I didn't think, to me it was nothing special. It was just a way to get across the river. I was too young to appreciate the feeling.
Even though grandmother was...
Well, grandmother was afraid. She wasn't, I don't think she was awed by it at all, and she was plumb scared to death.
Now, did Vilda go with you at the same time?
Vilda was already there, as I understand, as I remember the way I remember.
She didn't go across the ferry with
She
you?
didn't go with Grandma.
I mean, see, with Barbara, she's probably one of the few people still alive that ever crossed that ferry.
Ferry, yeah.
I didn't cross there. We went to Boulder Dam, and above Boulder Dam, I crossed on the ferry like that. We went across.
Well, I crossed there on that ferry.
Was that the time that you and your sister were chaperoning, that you crossed the river, or did you have to cross the river?
No, they were on this side.
Well, we were,
So you didn't have to. Okay.
I had just been made a Boy Scout.
Mm.
And we went down to Needles. We camped down there, and the guy let us pick grapes in their orchard. We go out there and pick these big bundles of grapes. And then we went on down to Las Vegas, and we stayed on the lawn down there. And then we went to Boulder Dam. And then they took us from Boulder Dam down to where this ferry was, and they took us across on that ferry, just the Boy Scouts, you know. And it was pretty scary.
Yeah. So when you, I mean, kind of talking a little bit about Lee's Ferry, and we'll go back with that. So when you were had taken, you know, those 3 school teachers across, I mean, to Rainbow Bridge, you didn't have to cross the river.
No, they were
So-
on this side of the river.
It's all on that side.
Big
Okay.
metal.
Okay.
Barbara, do you remember them putting the car on the ferry?
Yeah, I don't exactly remember how we got on. All I know is we drove onto the ferry.
Now, did you stay in the car, or were you on?
Yes, we stayed in the car.
Wow.
Yeah, there was just a flat
The
piece of
road after you got across was
Hell's
on a hill.
Backbone.
It was on a hill, and it was just barely wide enough.
Didn't they
And
call
it
it?
was-
Didn't they call it Hell's Backbone? No, that's up
That's down
in.
in Moab.
Yeah, it was.
But am I correct where, so you came across the river and you, I mean, because I'm thinking about now where you have, like, there's, the launch area is for all the boats now. And then across from that is where all of the kind of, there's green trees and sand on that side. But you didn't cross there, you crossed onto the rocks, or did you cross onto the sandy?
I think it was,
spot.
well, at the road, I remember that it was up higher than the floor of the valley, and it was just a two-track road.
And was it in?
It wasn't a graded road where you'd have gravel or anything on it. There was stuff
Yes.
going in the middle.
Was it rock or was it sand?
That was sandy.
Okay.
There must have been some.
There were
amount of
rocks
sand
too,
there,
because
but
they called it.
I'm just trying to remember because was it the same? Do you think it was the same road that that they took? I mean, like,
You can look across and see it now.
well, yeah. So what I'm wondering is like the settlements, you know, in southern Arizona. You know, I mean, when they would come across, like if they were taking the Honeymoon Trail and going across the ferry,
That's what
is
they
it the
did.
exact same road? That was the road that you took.
It was the only place to get across.
Okay, well, I wasn't sure if they had changed the road
No.
or anything like that. So okay, so because I've taken with my mom, we've driven that road
Yeah.
on there. So that's
On the one
okay,
down the
yeah.
Needles, they just had a rope that was about that big around, stretched across and anchored it. And then the ferry was like this. They had a rope here to it and a rope there. And they would turn the ferry like this, and the water would push the boat across. Then they would tighten this one and that one, and the water would pull it across.
Wow. Okay.
Just a flat
Mhm.
deck, you know.
And that do you think that was the same way,
Yeah.
same setup on the at Lee's Ferry?
I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Okay. Wow. That.
I mean, I remember when the ferry went out, and there were 2 Indians that had been up trading with Uncle Phil, and 2 white men or something that went down with the ferry. So it came at a time when it was a frightening thing for me, and maybe that's why I feel so. But I think it's amazing to
Mm-hmm.
have had that experience.
Well, I think the thing about me was, I was little.
Mm.
I couldn't have been very old. And-
How old do you think you were?
Well, let's see. Our baby was with us, and how much older am I than that baby? I'd have to look in the baby died while we were in Mexico.
Wow.
He got diarrhea and died. they didn't have a decent doctor down there.
Mm.
And my dad wanted to not do what he told them to do,
Mhm.
but my mother insisted that if the doctor said to do it, they'd do it. And this Polly, her name's Skousen, anyway, she was a practical nurse, and she tried to tell Mama that it was wrong. He shouldn't do that. I think we'd still have that. I'd have another brother alive if it hadn't. But my dad was a stickler about following doctor's orders.
Mm. So the baby was the youngest in your family?
Yes. He was born when I'd have to look on my chart, my genealogy chart, and tell you how much difference there is in our age.
Mm. So
How much older are you than Junior?
21 months.
So if the baby was, so you could have been
4 or 5.
4 or 5, yeah. So with traveling, you know, I mean, in those places, I mean, I think it's fascinating talking about taking those school teachers and the time that it took to do that and to go to those places. How much longer, I mean, or how did having a car shorten that distance? Did it? I mean, do you remember when cars first? When I don't even know this. When was the first car built? And I mean, do you know that? I don't know that. I need to look that up. That's.
Well,
Born in September.
we didn't go anywhere when I went in the car. The roads were so you didn't go 30 miles an hour, you know.
Mm. Yeah, because they were. I mean, they just weren't that good.
Well, yeah, rocks in the roads and everything.
Yeah.
One time we went to Three Lakes, that's just a couple of miles north.
1927, 28th of September 1927 is when that baby was born.
So is that the same age as Uncle Harold? I mean, is your brother about?
He was born in 27.
So,
He died the 5th of May 1928 in Chihuahua, Mexico.
So you were born in 22?
I was born in 1922. 27th of November 1922.
I'm a year old.
My brother's born the 2nd of August 1924.
so you would have
So
been
21 months.
about 5 years old-ish when you went across the ferry.
Probably.
Okay.
I was very small. I mean, I wouldn't.
Did you come back the same way?
No, we didn't. We came back. Trying to think how we came back. See, Vilda was down there too, and can't remember how we came back. But this baby was not on the church records.
Mm.
Mom and Dad weren't active, and they didn't. And when I went down to the bishop's office and looked on the thing, he was dead.
Wow.
And I said, I have another brother.
So we need to get him on
And I
here.
gotta get him on the church records.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I did, but it was.
So with, I mean, we were talking about traveling again. So with cars and things, I mean, I've been reading about Henry Bowman, so my great grandfather, building that stretch of road between Mount Carmel and
Yeah.
Kanab.
Mhm.
Those roads before that time, I mean, were the roads, driving on those roads was still.
You mean you've
Oh, it
never
would be
seen,
Being the sand?
you've never
Well-
seen the Bowman Hump?
Well, I know where it is, so I do know where the Bowman Hump
And
is.
you know, the day when Aunt Lottie said she came home one day and Aunt Nina was just sobbing. And she says, whatever's the matter? And she says, Harold wants to name this baby Kanab Dam.
Henry wants to.
Oh, Henry wants to name this baby Kanab Dam. And she said, Aunt Lottie said she'd never forget that.
Aunt Mary, it was grandmother.
Yeah.
It was Grandpa.
Grandma said Henry wants to name this baby Kanab Dam. And Aunt Lottie was there at the time. And
He stopped it.
She's the one that told me about it.
Wow.
And,
So was that story happened at the same time as the road being built? I mean, if I remember, the road was built in...
No, that would be
That
after
would-
that. It was, the road was built around 1920,
Okay, so...
21, something like that.
and
Because they were out of Mexico. They'd been to Mexico and they were back.
So then the Kanab Dam would have been before that. That was
Oh, yeah.
in 1895. I mean, if that's...
Yeah, they built this dam and then Uncle Deb and Dad put the sluice gate in.
Yeah.
Wow.
it's she said,
I'd like to talk to Grandpa sometime and ask him why he chose the names he chose. Othello Conrad and Waldemar. And
you know,
Bernardo.
Devereux
I know why
Washington,
Devereux
he was born
Washington.
on the 4th of July, so he was Devereux Washington, and he never told anyone that. He just was D.W. Bowman. He never used that middle name, it's just initial. W, and I don't know how it got out, but this friend of Dad was just kidding and called him Old Wash.
That's great.
Well, it was Grandfather's job to name the children, and
Yeah, she said, he says, Henry wants to name this baby Kanab Dam. Aunt Lottie had lots of nice little stories to tell me. She told me that she was the one that had to go get the midwife. And the day my dad was born, she said, the firecrackers were just popping all over. She said, the horse was jumping around, scared. And she had to go get the midwife to deliver the baby the day my dad was born.
they were in Provo, weren't they?
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm really glad that we don't have Dam as a family name. I mean, it would be kind of funny, but I'm sure that certain of my uncles might have chosen to have their children have Dam as a middle name at least. So
Well, it's funny what
yeah, it's funny.
way men are. They don't have the same idea that a woman has about naming kids. I know that for sure. But it was that was a sad trip to lose that baby. And oh,
The CCCs must have been before the war.
You what?
The
The Civilian Conservation Corps.
They were, because you see, my dad says that war, they had a warning. What the Japanese were planning to do at Pearl Harbor, but Roosevelt just let it happen. He had to have that war to rescue his administration from he would have been a complete failure. He would have gone down in history as being a complete failure, because those CCC camps were a big and my dad hated him. He hated him so bad. Of course, you know,
He had no love for Roosevelt.
he had no love for any Democrat, you know. I'll tell you a good one about Harold Jr. Grandpa Nixon, of course, was a Democrat, and the president was going to be on the train, and he wanted to take Harold Jr. down to the train to see the president. And he absolutely refused to go with him. And he tried to reason with him. He says, Grandpa, you and I just don't see eye to eye on politics, and I refuse to discuss it any further.
And how old was you when you
He
said
couldn't
that?
have been very old. How old would he have been?
Who?
Harold Jr.,
Harold Jr.?
your brother.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, if he would have been, yeah, he wouldn't have been that old. He would have been in his teens.
Because he
right?
was, he and DeVerl used to argue all the time because, I mean, the Nixons were Democrats. Dad was the Republican.
He said, "Grandma,
So
you and
Harold
I don't
was-
see eye to eye on politics, and I just better not discuss it."
Whenever I think of it pleasing me, though, you know, you're always hearing that the McConkeys are these Democrats. Which one of them is it? Bruce.
Yeah.
Bruce, the apostle, was not a Democrat. He did some work during the war and had some exposure to Roosevelt and some of the things, and he said, "You'll never see my name on it having anything to do with the Democratic ticket again." So there's, so all of Broussard's family are Republicans. What's Mary Lynn's friend? What's her name? Vivian.
Vivian, yeah.
Vivian told me that.
That's funny.
I'd like to see them sit down together and see what they'd argue about today with what's going on.
Oh.
They'd come unglued, wouldn't they?
My dad.
Yeah.
Well, do you think of anything else you need to ask? As we get on our way, we'll think of more.
Yeah, I'm sure we probably will.
She's getting tired.
Well, if I do think of any other things, I may give you a call and ask you some
Okay.
questions. So this has been great, though. I mean, these are the kinds of things that I think just most people don't understand how things work, really, you know. And so it's fun to be able to kind of to really understand the context, you know, and to understand my own backstory, because you know, I mean, we have. I feel like I have roots in the Sandhills because of being able to go there with my dad and having the cattle in that area, and then we have Jacob Blake and then the Grand Canyon, and so all these things, and so it's fun to be able to.
That's your history.
It is, yeah, and it's a pretty amazing one. So well,
the way when we first started doing this, before she ever got into it at Utah State.
Mm-hmm.
I said if we don't get it down, then it's going to absolutely be lost.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what I would like to see done.
Yeah. Well, something I've been thinking about lately, which if I can work this, I would love to, is that I would love to get some just recorders, just like little hand recorders that I could maybe give to you guys. That you could maybe, if it's once a week or something like that, sit down and think about those things that, about Kanab area, about the North Rim, those kinds of things, and just talk for maybe a half an hour into that, or with each other. And
it's Bowman history.
Mm-hmm.
They made the wheels turn. They had the garage and they brought the gas in. They made the thing go.
Oh, it was, and then what did they do with the power plant, Barbara?
Which power plant? In Kanab?
In Kanab.
Well,
Your dad and my dad did something. Hello?
Hello.
We didn't have no ambulance or anything. Her folks took me to Cedar City and put me up in DeMar's home to get the glasses and another
Great
time.
to see you.
Good to see you. How you doing?
Hello.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just me. Her dad put the bill on half of the canal, I think, moving them around.
My brother was just horrified when he went down to the garage to work, and when he looked in all the books and saw the amount of money that was owed to my father by people in Kanab who were far better off than we were, and never got it.
We as poor as the church mouth, they not only had to haul me over there, but DeMar put me up, fed me, brought me back home.
Yeah.
I bet you, I don't know how many people they were just there in the hill.
When I think about Aunt Flora, I had hay fever real bad in Kanab, but I didn't have it in Cedar. So from this early summer until fall, I stayed in Cedar. And I think about having somebody's kid in my house that wasn't mine for that long, and be as good to her as she was to me, you know. She was just, I just can't believe it. And you know, Vilda was, I love her now, but she treated me like dirt when we were in Cedar. She had her little friends and she didn't want to mix with them. When we went to BAC, she was in the top sorority and all this stuff, and she wouldn't back me to be in anything.
See, DeMar run that gas truck, and I bet he held half the canal to and from. That was the only doctor, you see.
Yeah.
It's in Cedar.
Well, you know, when
We had Dr. North, but he didn't offer it do hardly, you know.
I wouldn't trade my trips on that gas truck with mine for anymore, all the money in the world. And it was, like I say, coming back up that big, coming up out of the,
Out of Zion.
not out of Zion, but out of Lurkin and down there, that hill, that big hill.
I know there was a big hill.
It was like, you felt like it, when you go so slow, you felt like you were going backwards. And then all those switchbacks up through Zion. And I went down with him one day, and he went fast. I wouldn't he did. But I guess they suspected as much because they met him at the bar and they made him park there. The time it would have taken him if he'd have read the speed. Oh, I loved him. He was so nice, so good to me.
He was so good to my children.
He's so good.
They called him their fishing uncle.
And he said he used to sleep with me. We didn't have enough bed for everybody, and he slept with me. And he said he didn't mind sleeping with me, but he wasn't too fond of my dogs.
He was a good fisherman, too.
But you know, people these days would have a fit about something like that.
The Boy Scouts went to Navajo Lake, and we had camped up on there. And DeMar had his boat down there, and I went over and said hello to him. He says, "Do you want to ride in this boat?" And he roped him in. We went out and he'd cast.
He's sitting out in his boat one day, and he says, "You think they'll be fishing in heaven?" And he said, well, they didn't know. He says, "If there isn't, I don't want to go there." He really liked to fish.
But he didn't like fish.
No, he wouldn't eat them. He wouldn't eat them. Everybody got fish, but he wouldn't eat them.
Well, they were a pretty good bunch of men.
And so do you think that because, I mean, to me, I think it expands more than just being related, but, I mean, because they were related to each other, I mean, there was kind of that camaraderie amongst them, and then that kind of spread out from there? Do you think that?
Well, they had brotherly love from way back down in Mexico. They were close. They loved
They said, what was it they used to something about, they could argue among themselves, but don't try to take them on. You've got the brothers.
They had a ball team,
Yeah.
basketball team, the Mormon brothers did. That's how my mother saw him the first time. She said she went to this ball game and she was with Aunt Flora, and she said, somebody fouled Dad, and instead of, like, you know how there's a fight sometimes, Dad just this big smile, you know. She says, who is that? She says, that's DeMar's brother, all in the fishing.
That's great.
I don't know, it was,
I think it was Uncle DeMar that offered to kill, what's her name? Mina. He asked his mother if he wanted her to kill him. She'd be glad to. He'd be glad to.
see, I was planning to go there to be ready.
Claiming you're supposed to be my bridesmaid.
Yeah, and we decided to get married. And we decided what we wanted was for my mom and dad to come home and us get married in Kanab. And Dad called me back and he said, your Uncle Free wants to marry you. My uncle was a bishop. And he said, come on down here and get married. So that's what we did. So I had to call Eddie Dean and we're going to be married. And then she says, oh, no, that's different. But
I told her the other day, I've never known a time when I didn't know her. And so you're to see that she doesn't get any of these silly notions. She used to stay in my life.
well, I've got, your mother probably has all those pictures of us little cousins together when we were little. You want to look at those and see what cute little girls we were.
Well, I've seen quite a few of them, and it's true. Very cute. So, got a good-looking bunch.
We were
Well-
cute little girls. Yeah. It was,
And I don't think that we were proud, but we certainly knew who we were and that we had reason to be what?
What was it that you had expectations to fulfill?
Yeah, well, for
or-
our, that we knew that we had a place in the world, that we belonged
but you know,
to a family.
another thing that's really sad, our baby died in Mexico. And they couldn't bring him back across the border, so they had to bury him down there. And I can remember Grandma had a table that was this shape, and it was about, maybe a little longer than that. And that casket laying up there on that table, and they had coins on his eyes to keep his eyes shut because they didn't have any more tissue or anything down there. And that just haunted me. I hated that side of that baby with those coins on his eyes. And the mother had to come home and leave him down there. And then when I went back, when we went down to our family reunion, I could not find
Where he was buried?
Cat's grave. I didn't have time to go find somebody that might have been able to tell me where it was. But there's no marker or anything. You see.
Wow.
I just was sick to think about it. It doesn't matter, but you know.
Yeah. Well, good thing you got him on the record, so that's good.
Well,
Yeah. Well, if I have any other questions, I will definitely call, because you are quite the resources I have at my fingertips. So I'm grateful for
Hey,
it.
now, go get your car and bring it around to where.
Oh, on this side?
Yeah, bring it around here and drive it into the driveway and
Okay.
then your grandma will have it.
Perfect. Yeah, I will for sure. I'll go grab
Here's
that.
your stamp.
Oh, thank you. And I will. This is perfect. Well, I wanted to ask you one quick question though. So, you were telling me about the two drainages. So is this one here, is Perea, this one? Or is this one? So if Lee's Ferry's here,
Well, here it sits like this.
okay,
This is the bridge down there. This is the Pirate Creek.
okay, so that's,
This is White
Yeah,
Pocket.
making my lunch.
okay, and this is the bridge over here.
Yeah, this is the high part. You
Okay.
see, there's
Mhm.
pine trees out on here, and it all slopes back this way.
Okay, okay,
It's the water run, it'd come clear back here to get into the,
okay,
this is cattle country.
okay.
Back here at Coyote it is.
That's the goats, yeah.
This is goat country. You see.
So the other drainage, so you have Perea Creek here, and then what, this one here
This
is,
is Coyote. This starts here
okay,
and comes back around down to House Rock.
okay, okay,
This is the Kaibab over here.
okay,
This is Red Ledges.
okay,
From here to here is,
Red Ledge.
there's a trail off here, the Soap Creek.
Okay.
Have you ever gone down there toward evening when the sun's going down and see that, look off there and see that country from Jacob, from up on the.
Oh, wait, well,
Yeah, I love it.
That's something.
I do. It is possibly, I think, one of the most beautiful places there is. So
no place like
Anyway,
it.
that's true.
that's what you want
Okay.
to put this north, and that's south, and that's
Okay. Perfect.
okay.
Okay. See this map. I'm gonna be set.
I'm not much of a map.
No, it's perfect though.